You must understand that human social behavior, especially female behavior in romantic contexts, is layered, symbolic, and rarely obvious. A woman's silence, her distance, or even her apparent disregard is not necessarily an indication of disinterest. It may, in fact, be the manifestation of deep instinctive complexity. She does not broadcast her thoughts in the same language that a man might expect. What you interpret as avoidance could just as easily be emotional scrutiny. Throughout history, female survival and the survival of offspring depended on a woman's ability to judge character, stability, and integrity with precision, often under circumstances of great uncertainty. These mechanisms didn't disappear with the emergence of modern society. They adapted. Emotional ambiguity became a form of filtration. In other words, when a woman ignores you, she may be watching to see how you respond to being unseen. And that observation might matter far more than what you say or do when you're actually seen. She's not testing you maliciously. She's assessing your orientation toward chaos. Because in her world, unpredictability is a constant. And she's trying to see if you can bring order to it, not through control, but through presence. Your anxiety under pressure tells her more about your essence than your words under comfort. If you crumble in the face of silence, she learns that you depend on external validation to remain whole. That is not a trait associated with reliability. It's not that she wants to hurt you, it's that she wants to know if you'll hurt her when life stops being easy. You may want linearity, she wants depth. You look for yes or no, she looks for wholeness or fracture. A woman does not want a man who chases desperation, she wants a man who follows meaning. When she ignores you, she's not always saying go away. Sometimes she's asking, can you stay calm when I'm afraid to be seen? She may not even be aware she's doing it. This is the realm of the unconscious, where ancient drives speak louder than modern rationalizations. Ignoring you may not be calculated, it might be instinctive. But instinct is more honest than strategy. And if you learn to read that honesty, you become dangerous in the best sense of the word. Competent, composed, deeply aware. Women often communicate through what is not said. Their silence can scream with expectation. Their absence may be filled with observation. When a woman avoids eye contact, she may be consumed by the fear of being too seen, or she may be overwhelmed by the possibility that you see too deeply. Men tend to think that attraction is always loud, but many times it whispers from the shadows, watching how you carry yourself when the stage is empty. If you only respond to enthusiasm, you are weak. If you require constant affirmation, you are fragile. And fragility does not create safety, it demands it. Women ignore weakness, not because they despise it, but because they can't afford to trust it. You must ask yourself, is your need to be seen greater than your willingness to be stable when no one is watching? Because she is watching, just not with her eyes. She watches through timing, tone, presence, absence, withdrawal, and return. She may delay response, not to play games, but to see what you prioritize when you're uncertain. Do you chase her to fill your own emptiness, or do you remain grounded and allow her to approach on her own terms? A man who is centered does not panic in silence. He uses it to deepen his own vision. He uses it to listen more clearly. The paradox is this: she may feel drawn to you, but not safe enough to engage fully. That conflict creates an appearance of indifference, but it's not apathy, it's protection. She needs to know that your interest is not fragile, that your intentions are not transactional. Women want to be pursued, yes, but not in a way that betrays desperation, not in a way that collapses under delay. What she's looking for is the man who can hold steady even when the path is not illuminated. The woman who ignores you might be the woman who fears her own vulnerability. She might be guarding her chaos, waiting for a man who does not fear its depth. If you become angry or discouraged when she withdraws, you've shown her something important, that you confuse uncertainty with rejection, that you equate attention with worth, and that means your emotional system is externally dependent, not a source of stability, but a demand for it. She is not ignoring you to insult you. She is ignoring you to see if you insult yourself in response. The man who feels rejected without confirmation will always need rescue. The man who holds frame, who acts from values, not emotion, who listens through behavior, not just language, that man becomes a reference point in her psychological map. He becomes memorable, not because he begged, but because he didn't. You must learn to read silence as data, not conclusions, not judgment, but data. And like any data, it must be contextualized. A pause can mean fear. It can mean curiosity. It can mean confusion. It can mean attraction, struggling to overcome anxiety. What it does not always mean is leave. She may be silent because she's hoping you'll demonstrate that silence is not a threat to you, that you are not defined by immediacy, that you are patient without becoming passive. Most men want clarity, few want depth, but depth never comes without ambiguity. And ambiguity is where real strength is forged. If you need her to validate you before you validate yourself, then you are not a man yet. You are a reflection, not a source. The woman who ignores you might be unconsciously hoping you'll prove you're not so easily erased, not by chasing, but by remaining unshaken. Every woman carries unspoken memories of instability. She remembers the moments she trusted too soon. She recalls the times she spoke too freely and paid the price. She has built emotional mechanisms to protect her vulnerability with distance. If you interpret that distance as rejection, you are looking at her survival system and calling it hostility. That is not insight. That is naivety. You must not become reactive to emotional shadows. You must become articulate in the language of silence. If you want to be respected, you must stop demanding clarity before you've earned her trust. Emotional maturity is revealed in how you treat someone when they're unsure of you. And she will test that, not by attacking you, but by withdrawing from you and seeing what remains. In ignoring you, she may be offering you something sacred, a chance to reveal who you are when you're not being gratified. That moment defines you more than any compliment. Because a woman knows if you need her attention to remain composed, you will eventually require her submission to feel strong. And that is not love, it is insecurity dressed as pursuit. Certainly. Below is a 1,000-word expansion of key point 2, hypergamy and evolutionary signaling. In the educational, intense, and psychologically precise tone of Jordan Peterson, with powerful, non-repetitive lines as you requested. Human attraction is not arbitrary, it's engineered by nature with ferocious intentionality. What most modern men fail to understand is that desire does not operate on fairness, it operates on necessity. For women, attraction isn't primarily about appearance or smooth talk, it's about survival, strategy, and biology honed over millions of years. Hypergamy is not a flaw in the female psyche, it's the result of evolutionary mathematics, where risk must be mitigated by selecting strength, competence, and value. A woman is not looking for a man who simply notices her beauty. She's looking for a man who can withstand the weight of reality, because her biology is wired to detect the one who is capable not just of reproduction, but of protection, provision, and spiritual endurance. Her instincts are unforgiving because her ancestors could not afford error. The stakes were life or death. That programming still lives inside her blood. So when she ignores you, she might be activating a deeper test. Can this man stand still in the storm of uncertainty and still radiate value? You must understand, hypergamy isn't vanity, it's vigilance. It is her ancient radar scanning for signals of ascendancy, not through dominance, but through order, intelligence, and self-command. She is looking for the highest value signal in the chaos of male noise. And when she acts indifferent, it may not be disinterest, it may be filtration. Because the feminine does not waste energy on every signal. It waits for the one that persists beyond resistance, not with aggression, but with gravity. A man who is truly high value does not announce himself with desperation. He does not chase validation, he radiates sovereignty. And a woman tuned into her instincts will often create distance, not to repel, but to reveal. Because what matters is not just how a man approaches her, but how he responds when she becomes unpredictable. This is not cruelty, this is evolution watching closely. This is nature asking, are you competent in chaos, or do you collapse when your desires aren't met? The masculine ego interprets silence as insult. The masculine soul interprets it as a summons. When a woman ignores you, she might be watching for whether your pursuit turns needy or whether your essence remains dignified. This is not a mind game, it's a mirror. It shows her who you are without your performance mask. And if what's underneath is fear, she'll walk away without ever speaking your name. You see, hypergamy is not about gold digging or superficial judgment. It's about security encoded into flesh and instinct. A woman must bet her future, her biology, her children on the man she selects. That choice cannot be emotional alone. It must be calibrated against competence, durability, and psychological strength. If she senses you can't hold your own center, she knows, consciously or unconsciously, that you cannot hold a family, a crisis, or a dream. Ignoring you may be her subconscious triggering that test. She doesn't need to argue, she needs to observe. She wants to know if your interest is authentic or if it folds when the dopamine fades. Because every woman who's paying attention knows this. Men who cannot handle uncertainty often demand control later, and if you can't stand in her silence without turning bitter, you are not strong, you are merely loud. Hypergamy watches for your energy, not your volume. It doesn't care how charming you are when things go well. It cares how composed you are when you get nothing in return. That's when your real value is revealed, when the feedback stops. That's when she sees if you're worth following or fleeing. If your self-worth is reactive, she knows it will become oppressive. But if your self-worth is rooted in something deeper than her mood, she begins to feel something ancient: trust. The female nervous system is more attuned to social cues, ambiguity, and danger than you can imagine. She may not even know why she withdraws, but her intuition does. It knows what a man feels like when he's posturing versus when he's grounded. When she ignores you, her body may be waiting for your essence to emerge without prompting. Because if she has to pull confidence out of you, it was never yours in the first place. This is the brilliance of evolutionary signaling. It separates performance from principle. The man who is pretending will panic. The man who is real will remain. He won't try to impress. He'll continue building his life with or without her applause. And ironically, that indifference rooted in purpose, not arrogance, creates magnetism. Because nothing attracts a woman's deeper instincts like a man who needs nothing but stands for everything. Hypergamy is not romantic. It is ruthlessly effective. It scans for consistency, self-regulation, and trajectory. You may think you lost her because you didn't say the right words, but you lost her because your energy betrayed insecurity. She could sense that your value depended on her response, and that means you have no spine without her support. That is not attractive. That is dangerous, especially in the long term. A woman wants to feel your emotional gravity before she ever trusts your words. She wants to sense that you are not waiting for her to validate your masculinity. If she ignores you, it may be because she's watching to see what kind of man you become when no woman is watching. And that is precisely where true masculine character is formed, not in the spotlight, but in the solitude. You must embody the man you claim to be, especially when affection is withheld. She doesn't want your aggression. She wants your centeredness. If her silence breaks your spirit, she knows your love will collapse under stress. Hypergamy does not seek comfort. It seeks structure. It seeks the man who brings meaning to disorder. And when she goes cold, she is not inviting pursuit. She is inviting proof. Your test is not to win her approval. It is to reveal your unshakable self. Hypergamy doesn't need promises. It needs demonstration. And your ability to stay focused, to stay creative, to stay directed while she retreats is the signal she was looking for all along. You are not here to chase a woman into liking you. You are here to become the kind of man a woman cannot ignore, because your life speaks so loudly that absence becomes an invitation. Her instincts are older than language. Her selection mechanism is older than society. If she turns away, she might be asking the oldest question in evolutionary memory: will you still walk forward with dignity when I am not behind you? And that question does not tolerate lies. Your nervous system answers it before your mouth does. There's the law of natural selection applied to social dynamics. The man who survives rejection with clarity becomes the one worth choosing. The man who turns rejection into resentment becomes the one she avoids instinctively. Hypergamy isn't judging you, it's measuring you. measuring your self-ownership, your creative drive, your ability to hold emotional tension without seeking rescue. That is what the feminine looks for in the masculine, not bravado, but stability under pressure. Is the name of your book? Certainly. Below is a 1,000-word expansion of key point 3, power, status, and emotional resilience as attraction signals. Crafted in the educational, psychologically rich tone of Jordan Peterson, with each line intended to be impactful, unique, and emotionally resonant as you requested. A woman is not drawn to power because of vanity. She is drawn to it because it implies protection, leadership, and the capacity to bear burdens beyond the self. Status is not just about wealth or attention. It's about your relationship with competence. It is the external echo of internal order. And a man who has built structure within himself commands attention without begging for it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You must understand that emotional resilience is more than stoicism. It is the refusal to collapse when your emotions are not affirmed. It's the ability to remain whole when the environment becomes hostile. That's attractive, not because it pleases her, but because it calms her nervous system. If you cannot regulate your mood in the face of rejection, you become a liability, not an asset. And women sense that before they even know your name. A woman will not consciously list resilience as what she wants, but her biology demands it. She needs to feel that your inner foundation cannot be shaken by her fear, her silence, or her chaos. If you need her emotional feedback to remain functional, she cannot trust you to lead when everything falls apart. This isn't romance, it's evolutionary defense. She tests your ability to withstand discomfort, not to torment you, but to see if you can withstand reality. Men who rise in status are not immune to rejection. They're simply indifferent to its control. That indifference is not cruelty, it's discipline. When you stop needing a woman to respond in order to feel significant, you begin to radiate authority. And that authority is not domination, it's self-ownership. It says, I am enough, whether you notice or not. That is a magnetic force no attention-seeking tactic can replicate. Power is not loud, it's calm under pressure. The man who can sit in rejection without losing integrity is the man who communicates strength without a word. She sees that. She may not respond immediately, but she remembers it. Because so few men can do it. Most unravel, most react, most collapse into either rage or retreat. But the man who breathes, holds frame, and continues his path, that man rewrites the narrative. You are not ignored because you lack words. You are ignored because your energy does not carry weight. Emotional weight is earned by facing discomfort without flinching. It is earned by making decisions rooted in principle, not impulse. A woman will ignore 10 men who talk, but pause for one who leads. Not through control, but through quiet certainty. That certainty is more attractive than muscles or money, because it's rare, because it's real. The man who derives his identity from external response is forever enslaved by it. The man who derives it from inner alignment becomes untouchable. And untouchable does not mean distant, it means deeply stable. A woman wants to be able to lean into you, not to carry you. And if your emotions fluctuate with her every move, she knows that you're not ready to carry anything but your own wounds. Power is the ability to choose your response when your instincts scream for reaction. It is the restraint to hold space without demanding closure. That restraint is not passive, it's controlled intensity. And a woman feels that difference. She feels the strength it takes not to chase when you feel forgotten. She feels the confidence it takes not to explain yourself to someone who isn't asking. That energy doesn't beg. It invites. Status is the outcome of consistent self-respect. It is not built on likes or praise. It is built by doing what matters when no one is watching. And that reputation, earned in silence, is sensed by others long before they ask your name. A woman doesn't always need to know your achievements to be drawn in. She feels your posture toward life. She feels your emotional discipline. She feels whether you are rooted or just reacting. Resilience is not coldness. It is warmth under fire. It is presence in discomfort. The man who can feel pain without becoming bitter is a rare force in the world. That force is deeply compelling, not because it entertains, but because it liberates. A woman doesn't want a man who performs strength. She wants a man who became strong because he bled for something larger than himself and never lost his clarity. The boy collapses when he is unseen. The man creates regardless. And creation is a sign of power, a sign that your energy is not dependent on attention, but moves independently of it. A woman will ignore 100 men who wait for approval, but she will study the one who builds in silence. She may say nothing, but she watches what you do with her silence. And if what you do is elevate, she cannot forget that signal. You are not here to be emotionally reactive. You are here to be emotionally structured, not numb, but grounded, not emotionless, but unmoved by chaos. Because the world is chaos, and a woman knows this deeply. She needs to feel that your nervous system can stabilize hers, not amplify her fears. If you need her mood to be okay in order for you to function, she becomes your regulator. That is a burden, not a romance. Leadership begins when your value is not for sale, when you act from vision, not validation. A woman wants to feel your direction before she trusts your affection, because affection fades, but direction builds. She ignores the man who adapts himself to her emotions and notices the one who invites her into his clarity. That invitation does not come through persuasion, it comes through conviction. True power is quiet. It listens more than it speaks. It watches without needing to interrupt. And that stillness unnerves people who are used to surface level attention. But to a woman who has emotional depth, that stillness is unforgettable, because it means you're not trying to impress, you're trying to understand. And understanding is a form of spiritual dominance, not over her, but over yourself. If you flinch when you're ignored, you reveal that your power is conditional, that your status is costume, that your confidence is on lease. But when you remain poised, when you remain composed, when you remain purposeful, you become the kind of man who communicates authority without sound. That resonance stays with her, not because it chases her, but because it doesn't need her to exist. Every woman has encountered charm, but few have met structure. Charm excites the moment, structure holds the future, charm fades when uncertainty arrives. Structure gets stronger. She ignores to see what stands after the withdrawal. She ignores to see what disappears without her attention. And if you remain without crumbling, she sees that you are not seduced by emotion. You are married to purpose. Status cannot be faked over time. It is sustained through discipline. Power cannot be borrowed. It is the residue of self-mastery. And emotional resilience is the currency that separates men who demand from men who deserve. You are not entitled to her attention, but you are responsible for becoming the kind of man who no longer seeks it as a source of life. That transformation is not just attractive, it is transcendent.